Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled, where we decode the future that's already starting to unfold. Something massive is happening in AI right now, and I'm not talking about another model update or a new chatbot feature. I'm talking about a fundamental reorganization of how artificial intelligence actually works and who gets to control it. In the last few weeks, we've seen a developer join one of the world's most powerful AI companies. We've watched a major AI lab ban access to its products in a way that shocked the entire developer community. We've seen pricing wars erupt, new subscription tiers announced, and underneath all of it, a battle over what agents are, who builds them, and how they're going to reshape everything. Today, we're pulling all of this together because these aren't separate stories. They're chapters in the same book, and understanding how they connect is the key to understanding where AI is actually headed. Let's dive in. Peter Steinberger created OpenClaw. You probably haven't heard of him, but you've definitely heard of OpenClaw. It went viral as the AI assistant that actually does things. It could manage your calendar, book your flights, integrate with your email. It was the kind of product that made people think, oh, this is what the future looks like. And then, in mid-February, Steinberger did something surprising. He didn't turn OpenClaw into a startup. He didn't raise a massive funding round. He joined OpenAI. Now, here's what he said about it, and this matters. He wrote that he could have built OpenClaw into a huge company. But that wasn't exciting to him. What excited him was changing the world, and he believed OpenAI was the fastest path to do that. Sam Altman, OpenAI's CEO, posted about it on X. He said Steinberger would drive the next generation of personal agents. And here's the key part. OpenClaw itself, it's being transitioned into a foundation as an open-source project. OpenAI will support it, but Steinberger is now working on something bigger, building agents that even his mom could use. That last detail is important, because it tells you something about where the cutting edge actually is. It's not about making agents more powerful. It's about making them accessible to people who aren't developers. That's a different problem entirely. But here's what really matters about this move. It signals something about talent consolidation, the independent builder era, where a single developer could create something viral and maintain independence, might be ending. The people with the most interesting ideas are choosing to join the big players. Why? Because building the next generation of AI requires resources, compute, and access to the latest models that only companies like OpenAI can provide. Now, let's talk about the other side of this coin. Because while Steinberger was joining OpenAI, something else was happening that made a lot of developers very angry. Anthropic, the company behind Claude, formally banned third-party OAuth access to Claude subscriptions. And if that sounds technical, it's actually really simple. OAuth is basically the sign in with your Claude account button. It's how third-party tools let users access their paid subscriptions through integrations. Here's what actually happened. Developers were using OAuth to let users integrate Claude into third-party tools and agents. Tools like OpenClaw, for example. Anthropic shut it down. Why? They said it was a security issue. They worried that exposing subscription authentication could put user credentials at risk. Look, security concerns are legitimate. But the timing and the bluntness of the move created a real problem. OpenClaw was hit hardest. Users who'd been integrating Claude into their agent workflows suddenly couldn't anymore. The entire ecosystem that had grown around Claude access through third-party tools just froze, and developers felt betrayed. They'd built on Claude, invested time and reputation into integrations. And Anthropic essentially said, not anymore. Here's the really interesting part, though. Anthropic tried to clarify afterward. They said they weren't banning Claude access. You can still use Claude through APIs, through official integrations, through their own products. What they banned was letting your subscription be the authentication layer for third-party apps. That's actually a meaningful distinction. But here's the tension. What does it mean when a company controls whether you can build on top of their models? Anthropic framed it as security. But to developers, it felt like gatekeeping. Like Anthropic was saying, we don't want our models powering third-party agents unless we can control the security context. That's a very different message, and it created a vacuum. If you're a developer building agent infrastructure and you can't reliably access Claude through third-party integrations, where do you go? OpenAI. GPT models. That's the play. ChatGPT Pro Lite is coming. $100 a month, and it's going to reshape how OpenAI thinks about the entire market. Right now, ChatGPT has a free tier and ChatGPT Plus at $20 a month. That's it. That's the choice. Either you get limited access or you pay the same price as a streaming service. But a $100 tier? That's not casual usage. That's signaling something specific. It's not just another price point. It's a signal about how OpenAI sees the market fragmenting. They're saying there's a free tier for people who want to experiment. There's a $20 tier for regular users, and there's a $100 tier for people who need serious compute, serious capability, and serious reliability. That's three different markets, three different use cases. And it suggests OpenAI is thinking about AI differently, not as a single product that everyone uses, but as a tiered infrastructure that serves different needs. Meanwhile, Anthropic and Google are making their own moves. Claude Sonnet 4.6 just rolled out, a mid-tier model that's cheaper than their flagship but way more capable than their lightweight option. Gemini 3.1 Pro launched, and it's being embedded directly into GitHub Copilot. Notice the pattern? The companies aren't just releasing better models. They're building tier systems. They're creating ecosystem lock-in. They're saying, here's where you start. Here's where you go when you need more. Here's where you go if you need everything. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this breakdown of what's actually happening in AI, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. And turn on notifications so you catch the next episode when it drops. We're covering the stuff that matters, and I don't want you to miss it. The model wars just escalated. Google and Anthropic are both striking back, and they're not playing around. Gemini 3.1 Pro is available in GitHub Copilot now, which is huge because GitHub Copilot is where developers actually live. It's the tool they use every single day. Google isn't trying to convince developers to switch platforms. They're embedding themselves into the platform developers already use. That's a smart move. Claude Sonnet 4.6 is positioned as a mid-tier option, cheaper than flagship models, but powerful enough for serious work. It's designed to be efficient, to be cost-effective, to be the model you pick when you need to balance capability with budget. OpenAI, meanwhile, is rolling out its tiered approach. They're saying, we have models for everyone, free models, pro models, and now Pro Lite, a $100 a month tier that sits between their current offerings. This is competition playing out in pricing and positioning, not just raw capability. Because here's the thing, all these models are pretty good. They all work. The question now is, who's building the ecosystem that developers actually want to build on? Who's making it easiest to integrate their model into your workflow? And that's where the agent story comes back in, because agents need reliable access to models. They need good APIs. They need integrations that work. They need ecosystems that support multi-agent workflows. The company that wins? It's the one that figures out how to be the infrastructure layer that everyone else wants to build on. And we're watching that competition play out in real time. Okay, here's the thing most people are missing about agentic AI. And if you don't understand this, you don't understand why companies are making the decisions they're making. Agentic AI isn't just better chatbots. It's a fundamentally different approach to how AI systems work. Instead of you asking a question and getting an answer, agents take goals and autonomously figure out how to accomplish them. They break down problems. They use tools. They make decisions. They iterate. So instead of you asking ChatGPT how to book a flight, an agent books the flight for you. You say, I need to be in Denver on Tuesday. And the agent handles calendar conflicts, searches for flights, compares prices, reads reviews, and sends you options. Then it books the one you pick. That's the difference. That's why this matters. Market research suggests that agentic AI could be a $100 billion market by 2032. That's not a typo. 100 billion, with a B. And that's not because agents are a new feature. It's because agents represent a fundamental shift in how work gets done. When you have agents handling routine tasks, scheduling, research, coordinations, decision support. You free up human attention for things that actually require human judgment. And that creates value, massive value. OpenAI launched Frontier, a platform specifically designed to help businesses build, deploy, and manage AI agents. Google is embedding agent capabilities into their models. Anthropic is positioning Claude as an agent-building platform. Everyone's racing to own the infrastructure layer, because whoever controls the agent infrastructure controls which models get used, which integrations matter, which workflows become standard. Multi-agent systems are the next frontier. Imagine agents that talk to each other. An agent that handles your calendar coordinating with an agent that books travel coordinating with an agent that manages your budget. They work together to solve complex problems that no single agent could handle alone. We're already seeing this start to happen. Agents are being integrated into enterprise platforms. Companies are building workflows where multiple AI systems work in concert. The boundaries between different services are blurring. But here's where it gets complicated, because all of this, the agent infrastructure, the multi-agent systems, the ecosystem lock-in, it's happening in a policy vacuum. What happens when agents start making autonomous decisions that affect real people? What if an agent makes a bad trade? What if it misinterprets something and does something harmful? Who's responsible? Anthropic has been pretty explicit about this. They've taken a safety-first approach, they've refused military contracts, they've been cautious about capabilities, and that's reflected in their OAuth ban. They want to control how their models are used in third-party contexts. OpenAI has been more permissive. They're saying, build what you want, use our models. We'll handle the safety on our end. That's a different philosophy. Google is somewhere in the middle. They're building agent capabilities, but they're also thinking about responsible deployment. And here's the tension. These aren't just technical decisions, they're policy decisions. They're decisions about who gets to build on top of these platforms, who bears responsibility for what agents do, and what the rules are for agent behavior. Right now, there are no rules. There's no regulatory framework for autonomous AI agents. There's no standard for how they should behave, what they should be allowed to do, or who's liable if something goes wrong. So companies are making their own rules. Anthropic says, no third-party OAuth access. OpenAI says, build whatever you want. Developers are caught in the middle, trying to figure out which platform to build on, knowing the rules could change overnight. This policy clash is going to matter more and more as agents become more capable and more autonomous, because the company that gets the policy right, that balances openness with safety, that builds trust with developers while protecting users, that company is going to win. And we're not there yet. So let's zoom out, because all of this, Steinberger joining OpenAI, the Anthropic OAuth ban, the pricing wars, the model launches, the agent infrastructure race, it's all connected. First, the talent is consolidating. Steinberger didn't start his own company. He joined OpenAI. That's a signal. The independent builder era might be ending. When the most interesting people in the field are choosing to work for big companies rather than start their own, it tells you something about what's required to move the needle. Second, platforms are becoming gatekeepers. Anthropic's move to ban third-party OAuth access, that's not unique. That's a preview of what's coming. As agents become more valuable, platforms are going to be more protective about how they're accessed and used. They'll frame it as security. But it's also control. Third, pricing is becoming a competitive weapon. The $100 ChatGPT tier, the mid-tier Claude model, the embedded Gemini integration, these aren't just feature updates. They're strategic moves to carve out different market segments and lock in different customer bases. And fourth, and this is the big one, agentic AI is becoming the center of gravity. Every company is reorganizing around agents. Every major platform launch is about agent capabilities. Every policy decision is about how to control or enable agent access. The company that wins isn't the one with the best base model. It's the one that builds the best agent infrastructure. The one that makes it easiest for developers to build agents that work reliably, securely, and at scale. And that company is going to have enormous power. Because if you control the agent infrastructure, you control which models get used. You control which integrations matter. You control the entire ecosystem. That's why Steinberger joined OpenAI. That's why Anthropic is being cautious about third-party access. That's why Google is embedding Gemini into GitHub Copilot. Everyone's fighting for control of the agent layer. If you're watching on your phone, there's a hype button right below the video. Smashing that really helps channels like ours get discovered, and it tells us you're enjoying the deep dives. Over the next year, we're going to see some major shifts. Agent frameworks become standard. Companies start building multi-agent systems that handle entire business processes. The boundaries between different AI services blur as they learn to work together. We're also going to see more policy clashes. Regulators are going to start asking questions about autonomous agents. What happens when an agent makes a decision that harms someone? Who's liable? What are the rules? And we're going to see more consolidation. Independent developers who build interesting agent tools are going to face pressure to integrate with major platforms or join companies. The era of the solo builder might be ending. But here's what I want you to understand. This isn't a bad thing. It's just how technology works. Powerful new capabilities require infrastructure. Infrastructure requires coordination. Coordination requires some entity, usually a company, to build and maintain it. The question isn't whether consolidation happens, it's how it happens. Do platforms like OpenAI and Anthropic build agent infrastructure in a way that's open and accessible? Or do they lock it down and force developers to choose sides? That's the real competition. Not models against models, infrastructure against infrastructure, ecosystems against ecosystems. And the winner, the company that figures out how to be the infrastructure layer that everyone wants to build on, that company is going to have an enormous advantage. Not just in the AI market, but in the broader technology ecosystem. Because agents are going to be everywhere, in your email, in your calendar, in your workplace tools, in your banking apps, everywhere. The company that owns the agent layer owns the future. So what does all of this mean? First, the AI industry isn't just iterating on what came before, it's fundamentally reorganizing around agents. And that's a massive shift. Companies that understand this early, they're going to dominate. Companies that don't, they're going to be playing catch-up. Second, watch the policy moves. Anthropic's OAuth ban is just the beginning. We're going to see more restrictions, more gatekeeping, more attempts by platforms to control how their models are used. That's going to shape which platforms succeed and which ones don't. Third, the pricing wars are real. A $100 ChatGPT tier tells you that OpenAI is thinking about AI as tiered infrastructure, not a single product. That's going to change how everyone thinks about pricing and positioning. Fourth, talent matters. When the best builders are joining companies instead of starting their own, it tells you something about what's required to move the needle. It tells you the bar for independent success is getting higher. And fifth, this is all happening fast. We went from AI chatbots are cool to autonomous agents are reshaping entire industries in about 18 months. That pace is only accelerating. So here's what you should be paying attention to. Who's building agent infrastructure? Who's controlling access? Who's winning the policy battles? And who's positioning themselves as the infrastructure layer that everyone else wants to build on? Because that's where the real competition is, not in model benchmarks, not in feature releases, but in who controls the layer that makes agents work. The next few years are going to decide that, and the winner is going to have an enormous influence over how AI actually gets used in the real world. Thanks for joining us on Tomorrow Unveiled. If you found this breakdown helpful, if it helped you understand what's actually happening under the surface of these AI stories, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment, share this with someone who needs to understand this stuff, and come back next time when we dive even deeper into the future that's already starting to unfold. See you then.
Let the future be your